Good evening. The opinions and statements voiced by our guests do not necessarily reflect the opinions of this network. Enjoy the shows.
We've been expecting you.
Monday, time for our maven of the supernatural, Denise Pridemore. This is the Paranormal Pride. Join to listen and chat live on WBHM-DB.com or Spreaker app. Search WBHM-DB every Monday at 7 p.m. Central for your supernatural paranormal fix. Welcome to the Paranormal Pride, where the show is about the guest and the listener.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Welcome to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and my guest tonight, I know this is going to sound strange to you guys, I have on a guy who hunts Bigfoots, or at least researches them and looks for them, not necessarily hunting. And so I know you guys will find that odd because, I don't talk about that very often. But I met Jay. Let's see. How do you say your last name, Jay?
Bachochin.
Bachochin. Okay,
Bachochin.
See, I'm glad I didn't, because I would have said Bachochin, and see, I would have been wrong.
Everybody does it. Just don't call me late for dinner. I'm good.
Okay, well, that's perfect, because I won't do that. But the main thing is I didn't want to butcher your name. And so tonight I wanted to have somebody on different that you guys hadn't heard from, but I met him back in 2019 at the Van Meter Festival up in Van Meter, Iowa. And if you guys ever get a chance to go to that, it was a free event, but I don't know if they were going to try to charge this last year if they had it. And I think they still were going to have a pretty good turnout because everything else had been canceled and most of Iowa had been open until right before that. And but we met in 2019, and I met him and Nash and Linda Godfrey. And like I said, I'm not real big on cryptids, but it was a very interesting, and it was great because you got to sit there and actually visit with people, and I got to have fun offending, pollsters, or something like that. Some guy who was walking around trying to get me to vote for some guy out of Indiana. So, and I kind of told him where to go, but it was kind of interesting. And but Jay had a very interesting table, and he had his DVDs there of Finding Jay. And what I did was I asked him about Bigfoot, and he proceeded to tell me. I mean, this was a very small event. So you guys, if you ever want to get a chance to go, please go. You will love it. You get to get up close and personal. Well, 6 feet distance now, up close and personal with the people that are there. And we had a lot of fun. And like I said, we were looking forward to going back. Were you going to be there in 2020?
Believe it or not, I had something going on where I couldn't make it, so I had to tell Rachel I couldn't, which then it turned out to get canceled because I didn't show. So no.
Well, there had to be some good reason.
Exactly. Well, yeah, they did, but I'll definitely go again this year if it's still going. I'm hoping that conferences reopen up in some form.
Oh, actually, there is going to be one in. There's going to be one there in Marshalltown.
Okay.
I should know what it is because I've been asked to speak, and but they're doing
It'd
it
be
up
a good
there.
idea.
Yeah, and it's going to be a free event for people that are going to be attending. The only thing that's paid for is their investigations. They've got like three or more buildings that are haunted on the site, and it's just north of Des Moines.
Wow.
So, and it's August 21st, 22nd, and so if you want the information, just contact Kelly Steffen. Contact her, and because they're looking for good people of all different persuasions in the paranormal community to come and have a booth, speak, do tours, things like that. It'll be fun.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it, but I'm hoping that we were supposed to go to the stadium tour at Miller Park last August. That's where Def Leppard, Poison, Joan Jett, everything, was supposed to play, but of course that got canceled. And again, there's no word on it that it's back on again, but it's sometime right there in August, if I remember correctly. So I'll definitely check my schedule. I always try to keep my options open anywhere, especially if asked or requested. Love to join those conferences and share what I know.
Well, I think, did you speak at the Van Meter Festival?
I didn't, and Rachel said maybe the following year, which would have been 2019, but again, I couldn't make it anyway. So I haven't heard anything yet this year, because definitely once you get me going, I don't stop talking, as you know.
Well, that's what a speaker's for. Keep everybody focused on them the whole time. You stop talking, they look around and just go, there's something else to do.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, it was, because I didn't know if you spoke before we got there.
No, not at that one. I did speak in Chicago and Milwaukee a couple times. And then the latest actually was last year was at Starved Rock, Illinois.
I know where that is.
Yeah.
We investigated the town of a location in Utica.
Okay. Yep.
And what's funny is that weekend we went there, we didn't know it, but we were becoming grandparents at that time.
Wow. Congratulations.
Surprise. Well,
yeah.
He's now 3.5, but
congratulations 3.5 years later.
Yeah. And Starved Rock has got a really unique history.
Oh yeah. I mean, it sure does. Especially with, because I know that it was more the paranormal side. What a lot of people don't understand, or maybe they don't know exactly who I am, but I started out investigating ghosts in 2006. And we formed a team after me and my wife got back from our East Coast honeymoon. It was in October, so we actually ended up in Salem in a pass-through during Halloween, and they had the ghost tours, and that really got me going because, I was a big fan of Ghost Hunters Taps. That was the only show that was on at the time, and I really, I always thought there was something to it, obviously, because I always kept an open mind with it. And, I was a big Ghostbusters fan back in the 80s. And I thought, I wonder if there is something to it. But I also realized that anything on TV, you got to kind of take with a grain of salt. You might get educated in a lot of ways. And that goes with ghosts, Bigfoot, UFOs, or whatever. Mm-hmm. But the shows need ratings. And so I always thought, is there really something that, Jason and Grant are finding? And after we got back from our East Coast, and we did a quick outdoor ghost walk, which was really cool because the history in Salem and everything. Mm-hmm. Get back to Wisconsin, and I'm like, you know what? Let's kind of get some of this equipment that Taps had, and let's start doing it ourselves. And we are some of our friends who were interested in it kind of caught wind of it, and we became the Wisconsin Paranormal Investigators. And I always say our slogan or our mission was to hunt the truth, which I still do today. Mm-hmm. And that's really important because I always said I want to go out and try to, I'll go out and debunk it first and prove it second. Because of course, if you're trying to prove it, you can, have any misidentification of anything. Of, if you're sitting in a house at 3 a.m. and the fridge turns on, but you're not used to that type of noise, that could be considered maybe paranormal because the homeowners experienced that or whatever. And that's the same thing goes out in the woods, even because, you're out in the woods. Now you're in an uncontrolled environment where you've got the wind, animals, whatever out there. But I always wanted to actually, find that absolute validation of what it is. And that's the whole part of hunting the truth. It's not now so much saying after, research or investigating ghosts up until about 2013. I do know that it's real, and I know 100% it's real. But what is it? Is it, exactly what, we were, born fed, of what it is? It's just a person who passed on. It's a ghost, and that's what it is. But, I don't stop there. I like to always think outside the box, always. And, it's kind of a step I do all the time. And that's what I did with ghosts. Well, up until I, got up to the Kettle Moraine, and then all of a sudden my whole attention was like, hey, squirrel. And also now I'm looking over here. But, so I have had plenty of experiences in the paranormal. And, some of them were quite fascinating.
I know that there's quite a few fascinating events that can happen when you're investigating anything, whether, like you said before, whether it be ghosts, Bigfoot, aliens, how your food is made, all of that can be really interesting at some point in time. When you were investigating ghosts, what was one of the things that stuck out to you as, oh my goodness, this is realer than I thought?
Well, I can tell you this one house that we investigated. And again, back when we first started up, we needed to start somewhere. So we had a MySpace account. Remember those?
Mm-hmm. We never had one, but yeah.
Okay. Well, we started off with that before we actually put up a website in 2008, which was WPIHuntsTheTruth.com. And, once we did that, then we started getting the requests of either a business or somebody's house. And we do the standard interviews, and, we put it through the ringer a little bit before you invest, a team to go out and, set up the DVRs and actually be there for that. There's this one house in Rockton, Illinois, just a house that was built in the 70s. And the homeowner was actually, and the kids were experiencing in the basement what looked like an old man apparition. And they said it would just kind of come into view a little bit to where you could see him. And it looked like he was talking, but it was like you were watching a silent movie. You couldn't hear what he was saying, and then he would disappear. And so we were really trying to dig the history of, what could have happened in there. Was there any deaths in there? And there wasn't. That's the thing. People are always looking for, did somebody die in the house? Therefore, a ghost has to be in that house. But in this case, there were no deaths in this house. But it was an old man dressed in older clothing, probably 30s or 40s. And this was really intriguing to me because at this point, we had about 6 people in the house, and we were really good about, being quiet or tagging the noises that we made. And it was a little after 3. I remember this because I always know the witching hour, 3 o'clock. That's when it was at. I was in the basement in one of the rooms in the dark, and I had another investigator who was sitting outside the room, and he was just with nothing on, just trying to experience anything. So I had an EMF meter going, and it was kind of with the digits kind of glowed a little bit green. So it was kind of casting a little bit of green on the ceiling a little bit. So this is my long-winded answer, by the way. I'm just leading up to this. And all of a sudden the investigator who was in the outside of the room said, "Are you moving in there?" And at this point, we've already been there since like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Right now, my guard is kind of down. Actually, after 3 in the morning, I'm not even hyped up anymore. I'm just kind of like, all right, let's see if there's anything here. And I said, "No, I'm not moving." And just then, something went through me. And I mean, when you hear this on TV of saying that someone went through you and it was ice cold, and the static that it produces, that is 100% true. And that was one of the ones that actually felt like, I don't know what he saw. And it takes a lot for me to really get scared. And even if I do get scared or, at least rattled a little bit, every hair on my body raised, like, the redwood forest. It was the most bizarrest thing. It was like I was fully static charged. I actually took pictures of it because I'm like, whoa. And it was ice cold. And it only lasted for maybe a second or two. It was almost like something did pass through me. Now, again, what it was, that remains to be seen. I never really figured that part out, but because other people have experienced this, I would say that I definitely had a contact experience that that I still hold on dear to this day, because a lot of people don't get to have something like that. And it was one that it still doesn't scare me, but there's really no words to it when it happens to you. And I still always wonder, I was holding the EMF, it was right by me, and no digits jumped, no sound, nothing. So you know what I mean? It's one of those, you have all this equipment to try to detect ghosts, but were these really all these pieces of equipment made for, trying to detect a ghost, or were they used for something else, and we're assuming this is the energy they're putting off because it worked over here? It worked in Florida, it worked in California, it worked in London. You know what I mean? It worked in those times, but why not this time? But I still think that whatever it was could have been the old man, walking right through me, looking for a cigar box, apparently. So,
could it possibly have been an alien contact?
And that's one of the things that I have learned since ghost hunting. People say, well, Jay went from ghost to Bigfoot, but you got to remember
it's not a big jump.
It's not a big jump. And the thing is, being out in the woods, I'm telling you, I've seen so many weird paranormal orbs of light, equipment failure, everything that you would assume would happen in a controlled house is happening out in an uncontrolled environment in the woods, where I have had Bigfoot activity, where I have seen things that I can't explain, just the way they move. A lot of people could say, well, it was at night, it was in the winter, there was snow on the ground, and I'm seeing what looks like a super huge gangly chimpanzee kind of in a sitting squatting position, 20 yards from me, best guess. And I'm looking at it, and the thing just moves like it's on a cart with wheels. It looked like a statue that somebody just pulled behind the trees. The thing never wobbled, never moved, never stood up. And I'm like, wait a minute, what am I looking for out here now? I don't even know. That's how come people say, do you believe in Bigfoot? Absolutely. What is a Bigfoot? I don't know. And therefore, since doing the ghost investigation, and the one thing I didn't say is I grew up, aliens was my first love. Ever since Close Encounters, the third time I'm dating myself, way back in the 70s. I've always.
Well, did you see it way back in the 70s?
I did.
See, I didn't.
I did. Yeah,
I think I saw it in the 90s.
Oh, okay. So I'm probably older than you then.
No, you're not. It's just I was sheltered.
Yeah. Well, I was too, but I would just make sure that, my mom was sleeping before we watched it or whatever like that. But I'll tell you, it scared us even back then. So being out in the woods now, I don't put Bigfoot in a box. I don't put ghost in a box. I don't put UFOs in a box. Right now, I am dealing with all three elements, maybe more, who knows, because I've had different time losses out there in the past 8 years.
You know what? We're going to talk about that when we come back. You're listening to WBHM-DB.com out of Birmingham, Alabama. We'll be back with Jay in just a few minutes.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama. Since 1948, Fate Magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting. You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
This is Jason Bland, host of Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup, where we stream live as a webcast every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern, with guests who will blow your mind. Live ghost box sessions where you can call into the show to see if the spirits will talk to you, and the world wide web of weird with the latest in paranormal news and evidence. We're bringing the weird every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow and subscribe.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and I'm talking to Jay from Finding Jay, and we are having a great time. And what we're going to go to now is, this is back to what you were talking about before, about Bigfoot being in the woods, all that stuff. We had a question in chat, and during the break, my husband made sure that he came over to me and said, "Ask this question." So,
Okay.
So, top fan. He has to get top billing. When you go out to hunt Bigfoot, is it better to go alone or with a group of people? And when I say alone, I don't mean just completely by yourself. I mean you and one other person. Or is it better to go with a whole group of people that have more eyes on everything, that kind of stuff?
Definitely I would never suggest going alone. I know a lot of people do. There's a reason why I don't. And that has always come down to safety first. And that doesn't mean you're going to run into a Bigfoot or a Dogman or, some screaming banshee out there. You know what? The woods can be a dangerous place, and it all depends on where you're located in the country. You've got to know all your surroundings, the different animals out there. Make sure that you bring some protection, which suits you, and always have a hiking partner, because you never know what could happen, just as a natural cause. So in this case, I generally like to go with just like, one or two extra people. When you have too many, I always call it the Brady Bunch. If you have too many or you have more, it gets to be a little bit distracting. Now, that's not 100% bad thing as well, because, what I like to do instead of just hiking for miles and miles and miles is I like to get out there and I like to find a certain location and I like to stay put. Then you have your conversations. It's almost like fishing with a bobber and a worm, like the old days.
Oh, yeah.
Just sit, and now you're going to wait. And I always say patience is trust. And, with that, when you only have a couple people, it's easier to do because you're really focusing on the two other people and the surroundings. Now, when you have way too many people, you're not going to be able to keep everybody quiet. You might hear something while somebody else is talking. That's generally my best practice of when I go out to research it. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, I mean, because I know some people can't sit still and their feet shuffle all the time.
Exactly.
I mean, if you ever watch a little kid, you just see their feet moving under their chair. There are adults like that. They just can't sit still. Because you have that, whether it's Bigfoot, UFO, or ghost.
Oh, exactly. Yep.
So, and like I said, it is what it is, but, and I know why you wouldn't want to be in the woods alone. I have seen all these survival shows, especially the ones on the Weather Channel with Creek.
Right.
They're always alone when they get hurt really bad.
Yeah, and you don't want to end up that way. A lot of people ask me all the time, if you see any pictures of me out in the woods, I have a backpack. Do I ever really use anything in the front? No, I kind of have, the people I go with joke and call it a merce. It's a bag that hangs around me. It's not a purse, just to let you know.
Right.
But it's basically where I keep everything to where I can just kind of grab, use it if I need to. Everything in the backpack, though, is more for survival in case something happens out there, And I mean, this goes from your essentials of your toilet paper, paper towels, your first aid kit, your tick removal, your fire starter, all these different things that I also carry like 3 different power banks for my phone. In case something ever happened and I got stranded, I would have enough power to keep my phone going. And not to mention, I don't say usually, I always text my wife when I get to a certain location, and I text her when I leave. Because again, if you ever watch David Plotty's Missing 411, those things can happen right in front of you, or you're just missing. And I like at least one person out there to know right where I'm at, what location I'm at, kind of a GPS honing. And it's just, those are my best practices for the way I, why, or how I would hike, and especially with not a large group of people, unless, just taking them on a tour de force or something,
Yeah, but, still, you can still get lost even if you've been in the woods 100 times.
Oh, absolutely.
There's something that changes, or as you were saying, lost time. And then you don't know how in the heck you got to where you are because you've lost time.
Exactly. Yeah. And you could still be in the same locations. And I'm going to give you a prime example. I've been researching several areas for the past going on 8 years, but I haven't explored all of it because the Kettle Moraine's huge, and, you really could walk for miles and miles. And, do you want to get stuck out there at 11 o'clock at night? I mean, miles out there to where you're trying to find your way back or whatnot. And there's, a labyrinth of trails out there that this past Saturday, I haven't been down these set of trails probably in 7 years. And it was actually me and David and Karen went out there, and I said, hey, let's get lost. Guess what? We got lost. But it was cool. We found our way back. We keep our compasses or whatnot. But you can get that sense of not being able to know your way back, because when it gets dark in the woods, no matter what trails you're on, they all look the same and they can go any direction, and you could be in a world of hurt, by being lost out there, eventually finding your way back, which we did obviously. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely something to consider not getting lost out there.
Do you also like the survival stuff? Do you go out and do any of that kind of stuff too?
Yeah, I would not make it on Naked and Afraid for two reasons.
Well,
But
I wouldn't watch Naked and Afraid.
Or even all right, maybe that was a bad example because that's almost just for ratings. But what I'm saying is, no, I really don't go out and do the best practice of survival. I should say not physically, mentally read about it, hoping that it never happens. But those are some of the things that I have, you kind of learn as you hike as well, just in case of certain situations. But I never put ourselves into a situation to where we're, in a way that we're going to be in total harm, especially where we're at in southeast Wisconsin, where, besides the cougar and the bobcat that are roaming around out there, which I know they're out there because we found their prints even in the snow. It's you kind of have to know what's going to happen if a situation like that arises. And I'll never bring anybody out there that I know that won't have my back. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, I know I'm going to have that person's back with what I carry, which I don't carry a firearm. And I know that people are going to say that's crazy, but there's a method to my madness there. But I do have other means of protection that would definitely help,
So on that, when you say you don't carry a firearm, do you think that Bigfoot is dangerous?
You know what? Because I have been there and I'm living to tell this story right now, and it hasn't ripped my head off in 8 years. I would say the Bigfoot that is around this location either know me, by now. I mean, in the beginning it was kind of rough because I was having rocks thrown at me and there was a lot more aggressive acts towards me. But yeah, I would definitely say they would be because it's unpredictable. I mean, I don't care if people think, it's a man, a wild man, or if it is an ape or whatever. They're unpredictable. I mean, even if you ran into a person out there in the middle of the night, just you're out there and all of a sudden you come across somebody, you don't know what their intentions are. So a person could be dangerous. Yeah, a Bigfoot definitely could be dangerous. And it's just the way you approach it. And I believe that's why, that's one of the reasons why I don't carry a firearm, because I believe they have this really good sense. And it's like a dog, how a dog can sense your fear. And I really believe that they can sense your confidence. And that just meaning, if you're packing, you're feeling pretty confident that, what, anything comes near me dangerous, I'm going to shoot it, I'm going to kill it. And therefore, I deliberately do not carry a firearm out there. I do carry other protection of, hunting knives, 21-inch machete, bear spray, 2,000 lumens torch, to blind whatever.
Yeah.
But I want to go out there for more of contact right now instead of trying to prove it, because let's be honest, no matter what you capture is going to be a blob squatch, or it's going to be blurry, or you're going to have to try to convince people. And, people have already made up their decisions of whether they believe or not. And even if you did catch something that people believe, they're like, maybe. You know what? At this point, I'm throwing that all out the door. I will keep documenting, but I'm really doing it more for a contact because, like I said in the beginning, I hunt the truth. I want to know what these are. It's not so much trying to prove them. I'd like to know what they are, just like ghosts. People should be more, are they dead people, or are they from a parallel universe or parallel, part of the world that's popping into our world and popping out of our world? But maybe ghosts are flesh and blood, but they appear to be ghosts to us. You know what I mean?
Right.
And same with Bigfoot or aliens. So that's what I'm trying to get to. Is I'm trying to make that contact, and the only way to do that is to really put a lot of trust in how I approach it into the woods with respect.
I can see, I understand all that. And in case any of you heard, I have a visitor that just showed up. My grandson just showed up to yell at me and tell me, Grandma, turn on my Halloween. So when the break comes, I'm gonna. Yep, he's big into Halloween and Christmas, but when the break comes, I'm gonna let you guys talk for a few minutes. But the part of what you said, well, everything you said made a ton of sense. So tell me why no, I can't say that. Can you tell me your best evidence to make me believe Bigfoot exists?
Well, I definitely could. One of them could definitely be, if you go to my website, I took some pictures of a 17 and a half foot footprint by 5.5 inches in the snow. It was about a 2-foot drift, and there was about 12 of them, and they had a span of 53 inches in between each, coming down a kettle. So it's not just flat. You're coming down a kettle. Absolutely no drag mark.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really important to understand. If you've ever walked in the snow, no matter what kind of stride you want to take, look back at your print and see on how the way your foot will pull out of the snow and how it will drag in 2 feet of snow.
Mm-hmm.
These almost would have had to have been, and it's the only thing I could think of trying to debunk it, is somebody in the middle of nowhere tied up rope so that they were not touching the snow, and they're pulling themselves and putting imprints in the ground with a Bigfoot stencil, and that's it. There's only one problem with that, is there wasn't really thick enough trees right over the path of where I found them. Number 2, they were in the middle of really nowhere, and number 3, it was snowing. So those prints that we just happened to find would have been covered up within the hour. They would have been full. And at that point, it's something would have had to have made that print. Now you could say, well, Jay, did you see what made the print? No, I did not. But something made them. And when you get down to the possibility or plausibility of a person doing this, well, no one's ever come forward. Number 2, I wouldn't know how they would have done it, except the way I just mentioned, is they would have to have been off the ground to do it because there was no other snow disturbed around it. Now you could say, okay, well, that is odd, Jay, but is there still such thing as a Bigfoot out there? Well, if you're going to go by behavior, I could tell you that I've had stones thrown at me from out of the woods that have landed precisely by my foot on every move. And if you know the kettle and the terrain, it's not possible. It's not like somebody is standing way up high, on a bridge somewhere, and they can see exactly where you're about to walk, and they have the best aim in the world, and it lands by your feet. When you're walking through that forest, the kettle is such a rough terrain, no sound out there. No matter where we went, the rocks ended up by our foot. So you could say, all right, well, maybe there was a hunter out there and he was just trying to scare you away. Again, possibility, plausibility. Okay, so you still don't know what did that. So all of a sudden now you're hearing certain type of wood. I don't want to say wood knocks. So that's what a lot of people call them. They almost sound like a wood pop. And it could almost be generated from, a body part, doing it the right way with a jaw or something like a bone cluck or something, where I've heard those all throughout the kettle. A lot of people said, well, it was the winter, the trees are popping. Well, I also heard them in the spring, summer, and fall, and they all sound very, very close to how they sound. But then the final thing would be, okay, I'm not going to sit here and try to convince anybody that Bigfoot's real, but if people want to take my word on it, that's fine. If they don't, I understand that too, because that's how I would be. But I saw something that looked like a chimpanzee. I mean, it was huge and it was gangly, and the way it moved was unnatural. Or I don't even want to say paranormal. It was more supernatural the way it moved because it glided. And if you do enough studying of Bigfoot encounters of different people all over the United States, Canada, the world really, and they experience the same thing, but you didn't hear that first, right? Okay, I'm saying I didn't hear that a Bigfoot can go on all fours until after I saw it. I was really confused at what I was looking at. So I always thought that if I was going to see Bigfoot, and I really wanted to see Bigfoot, it was going to be Harry and the Hendersons, or the Patterson Gimlin film. That's what I was expecting to see out there. But no, I see something on all fours. And the way it moved was, like I said, more supernatural than anything. So that to me, for what I always say is I don't like to exaggerate anything that I post, that I put in my film. What you see is exactly how it happened. And it's really up to that person to actually come to their own conclusion, whether they're open to it or not. And if they're not, believe me, I completely understand. I'd be the same way. I'd totally be the same way. In fact, that's what I tell people in general. You know what? Don't believe me. Go out and discover it for yourself. That's all I got to say. You go out in the woods and you do what I do, and just, you know what I mean? You will discover it. And I think that's the key. But until then, that's fine. I always say, hey, you know what? I always appreciate people following me and checking out what I've done next. But it's whatever this is, it's real. What it is, I don't know, but it's real. But I'm still here. I could keep babbling
Sorry,
forever.
I had it muted because the baby was making noise.
Oh.
So the weekend that I had surgery, every show we had on, everything happened to be Bigfoot. I mean, I was actually prepared. I'd watched all this stuff and it was all ready. I mean, we even had it on in the hospital, and just kind of trying to understand more about it. And some of the things that I saw on, it was that Bigfoot thing. I mean, there was like, I forgot what it was called, but it wasn't new. It was like a three show thing. And,
Okay.
they said something about, they kept showing these footprints, and I'm like, well, if it's wet, you put your foot down, and when you put your foot down, it squishes the mud out. And so when it dries, it kind of gets a little bit smaller, and and the longer you're there, the wider it gets. Same as with snow prints, because your body heats it up, it melts and makes it a little bit bigger. And see, I am a little bit scientific here. I know how stuff works. So I'm sitting there looking at this, and I'm going, they're not accounting for these things. They didn't also look to be accounting for people who slide when they walk and make their foot look bigger. I'm a size 7, so I have tiny feet. Well, I have average feet for a woman. So I see certain things. But you know what? We're at our break. We're going to come back to talk about this in a few minutes. You're listening to WBHM-DB.com, and I will be back in just a few minutes.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and sorry for being a little late back, but my kid needed something, and I'm, family first. So, when we left, we were talking about Bigfoot feet, plaster casts, things like that. Have you ever seen any of those?
What the actual
The actual feet. Have you ever found footprints of your own? And then have you seen any casts?
Now, I've seen casts. I've never casted yet. Now, I do carry an arsenal of plaster, water, everything I need to cast. So many rookie mistakes way early in the beginning because I found some real nice ones that were definitely probably castable. Now, I know we were talking about the snow
right,
and how it has melt out and the drag. Those are the big things that I was looking at. 20 degrees. And it was a really cold winter that year, and there was no melt out on it because it looked only because I've seen so many times of what you're referring to of the melt out. I've actually seen a leaf fall down on the snow, and then all of a sudden just be a weird size because of the melt out.
Yeah. Or, even when they freeze, they contract.
Exactly. So in this case, just to let you know, yes, that, being, not having a big scientific background, but a big scientific enthusiast, those were definitely the things that I was looking at was the melt out, the drag, or anything like that, so, but no, getting back to some of the other prints that I found, I've never cast them. But now I do have a few casts that were from they're replica casts. They were from the original. So I'm really able to study those of, what the foot would look like, what the dermal ridge would look like on the bottom of their feet. And in so many cases, I wish I could go back in time and cast those. The only thing I have is video and photos. That's it. But I have seen cast for sure, yes.
And I find them interesting. What I see that's really interesting is that Bigfoot are flat-footed.
No, exactly. They have definitely a different anatomy in general. It's not even the feet. Just from a lot of the descriptions of how they're looked, their knees are much lower than ours. Their arms are much larger than ours. Just the way they move, they don't move like a person. Therefore, it has something to do with their feet. While they look like ours, they do have a different anatomy for the way their dermal ridges actually help push off and still be flat in each one of their steps. That's what I really noticed in the trackway I found in 2014. The 12 of them is they were just mashed down. It didn't look like there was any lift up in really any of these, and it really is intriguing to see. There's those are the type of things that I'm really trying to look for, trying to understand, what they are, because really nobody does. I give everybody kudos who's been doing this for 20, 30, 40 years of their life, but nobody knows really what they are. But definitely they exist. Therefore, I'd love to make that contact and say, hey, let me see your feet. Or feets.
Foots. I want to see your feet or foots or whatever they call them.
Yeah, let me see your footsies.
So Like I said, it's not that I don't believe. I've never been. I can't say I've never been in this situation, but jokingly, I've been in this situation. And yes, I've been in the woods quite a few times in my life. I mean, used to hang out in the woods a lot as a teen. I mean, what teen didn't? It
Right.
was the one place where we could all be who we were and not have to worry about the outside world.
Right.
But as an adult, it's been less and less as I've gotten older. And I don't know if it makes me older, not getting out in the woods, but we're not, my husband and I aren't afraid of, being out in the woods. We go camping in graveyards, and even at our age, we still sleep on the ground when we go out in the tent. And 20 degrees out and ice.
Yeah.
We've done that. So I mean, we're not afraid. It's just where would we go if we wanted to have the opportunity to see Bigfoot or aliens? I asked the same question last night on a different show and got an answer, but I want to hear yours.
Yeah. Well, with mine, because everybody's going to be doing this differently. And in my case, when I talked about fishing at a bay, find a spot to sit, put the bobber and worm out. I'm not saying casting. I'm saying you put the bobber and worm out and you wait, because that's really what it comes down to, is the whole trust factors, because I believe that they are very curious of what we're doing out there, especially when we go out late at night or, depending on where we're at during the day. I believe they are curious, and I believe they will approach in a matter of time. But I don't think there's a Bigfoot behind every tree either. So, people are going to go camping and they're like, wow, we're in the woods. Where's Bigfoot? Why isn't he coming up to us? Or why aren't they coming up to us? Well, that goes with, the different areas that you're in. Could there be, many more, I don't want to call them tribes, maybe families could be there. Sometimes when I go out, people say, do you find evidence of Bigfoot every time you go out? The answer is no. I can go out 15 times straight, and out of those 15 times, one of those times might have something kind of bizarre, but maybe it's not even Bigfoot related. Maybe it's more ghost related or UFO related, or orbs of light shooting through the woods. I didn't see Bigfoot. I didn't smell Bigfoot. I didn't hear him. I didn't find any prints, but here I'm seeing these white balls of light just zoom through the woods right in front of you. And, you're trying to find out is that a correlation? Whatever it is, you're seeing an orb. I'm calling it an unidentified flying object. It's a UFO. Does that mean it's extraterrestrial? That, again, I don't know what's behind it. Could it be a natural cause in the kettle of, the sediments that you're actually on causing that, because you're not out in the woods 24/7. So, my best suggestion is always just go out and just enjoy nature and just keep your eyes open. You know what I mean? If you're going to approach it that way.
Yeah. Well, that is always the best way, because if you go in looking for something, you're going to be disappointed. I think if you go in looking for nature, and like my daughter, she spends a lot of time looking for fungus, mushrooms, but fungus.
Yep.
And she really enjoys finding different kinds of fungus and taking pictures of it.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, whatever. And whatever makes you happy. But
you're out there though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And the thing is my grandson can now point out fungus at 3.5.
Nice.
He'll point it out to his mom. And so I don't know. I just know that my husband said in the chat room that we need to go up and go camping and Bigfoot hunting in Wisconsin now. And he's never said anything to me about going to Wisconsin. He is a Green Bay Packers fan. So he's been up there for their training camp. So I guess maybe it's someplace I need to add to my list of places to go. Is Wisconsin.
Well, he would get along great with my wife because she's a diehard Packer fan. But I'm a diehard Bears fan. How about that? Huh?
We have another friend that likes a losing football team.
Yep. Yep. Hey, one day we will redeem ourselves. I don't know when that day will be, but it will be. Now, maybe not this year. Definitely not this year. But
it doesn't matter. I stopped being a football fan a while ago.
yeah,
I'm just not a football fan anymore. So.
But I'll tell you what. Besides the Packers ruining the state, I love the state of Wisconsin. I mean, honestly, I'd never move from this area. It's beautiful. Just everything about Wisconsin, I love. Just the history, the nature. It's just, I love it here so much. And I think that's why the kettle, I always say, beckons me. Now, you would think that it's a super hot day or a super cold day, maybe 20 degrees, 15 degrees, almost zero. I need to be out there. And the best way to explain it, and I don't know if anybody ever feels the same way, but really nobody has a time clock on me. I do what I want to do when I'm going to do it. But there are times where it's just, the only way I can explain it is if you had family and friends and you knew they were right down the street and they were going to have a party and you knew it, you couldn't be there. You were stuck at home either doing work or whatever, and you had a break in between, knowing that all your family and friends are all there just having a great time.
Mm-hmm.
That feeling that you need to be there. And that's how I feel. So if it's like, same with me, I'm a family man and family first, and doesn't mean I can make it out every weekend or every weekday or, whichever. I've always got different commitments, and they always come first. But when it does get to be 2 weeks out or 3 weeks out, it's like, it's time to get back out there, because I just need to be out there. And the only way to hunt the truth, and that's whether it's Bigfoot or aliens or ghosts, is boots to ground.
Yep. Get your hands dirty.
Well, you have to. I mean, I try to do as much research as I can as well, and listen to reports and do all that from either while I'm commuting, listening to podcasts, or being Googling and trying to find different information on just trying to educate yourself. And that's extremely important to do. But you also need the boots to ground to find it. Because if not, then you are that armchair opinionated person, whether saying they're true or not. You need to be out there. That would be for the serious investigators or researchers. I'm saying enthusiasts that are just like, well, maybe Bigfoot's real, maybe it's not. Here's a show, or I'm listening to a podcast with this guy Jay on it. It makes sense, but maybe there is something to it.
I mean, there's a lot of things out there, and we're going to talk about the research part of it when we come back from break, and we also have some questions in the chat room that I think you'll be better to answer than me. Like I said, I don't know. That's why I had you on, was because I want to be educated a little bit more on, should I take a vacation, go camping, and maybe try to find something different on my trips? Because with me, I want to go to the beach. I mean,
sure.
Every trip, it's let's go to the beach. And, maybe someday I'll live at the beach, and then I'll want to go see your 5 days of summer.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, I work with a lot of people up there. I mean, we're probably your telephone company. And so I hear about the mosquitoes and all the other stuff, and how bad the weather can be and how good the weather can be and all that. So I'm just used to making fun of Minnesota and Wisconsin. It's just part of my daily life with the people I work with. In fact, I usually know the weather report up there before I know mine, which is strange. And well, it's because it was always a talking point when my boss was there.
Right.
So I know enough to be dangerous. I also know where I don't want to go when I do go up that way. But I've heard that parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin, and even Michigan are just beautiful.
Oh, very.
And they are places that you want to go because you do have alien, Bigfoot, and ghost sightings in near the same areas. But at this, we're going to take our last break. This is going to be the news break. So everybody, this is your time to go get a drink, a snack, whatever you need. Take the dog out, and we'll be back. But you're listening to WBHM-DB.com with Denise Pridemore on the Paranormal Pride and my guest, Jay. Just come on back.
Support for NPR comes from Sattva, the comfort company. Sattva luxury mattresses are sold online and priced at about 50% less than mattress stores. Visit sattva.com/NPR today and save an additional $225.
Live from NPR News, I'm Jack Speer. President Biden says 90% of adults will be eligible for COVID-19 vaccination within 3 weeks. As NPR's Tamara Keith explains, the administration is also rapidly ramping up the number of places people can get those vaccinations.
Biden says 90% of U.S. adults will be eligible for vaccination, and 90% of people will have a vaccine site within 5 miles of their home, all by April 19th. The country is in a race against the virus, and cases are again on the rise, prompting Biden to mix the optimism of his latest announcement with a plea.
Now's not the time to celebrate. It is time to do what we do best as a country. Our duty, our jobs, take care of one another, and fight this to the finish.
The message, keep wearing masks and socially distancing, avoid non-essential travel, and get vaccinated as soon as possible. Tamara Keith, NPR News.
Prosecutors at the trial of the former Minneapolis police officer charged in the death of George Floyd played a video showing the officer kneeling on Floyd's neck for 9 minutes as the black man pleaded for his life. The video posted to social media by a bystander shows Derek Chauvin pinning Floyd and ignoring onlooker shouts to get off him. The prosecution says the officer refused to release Floyd even as he said 27 times he couldn't breathe. The widely seen video sparked international outrage. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in Atlanta says the COVID-19 vaccines made by Pfizer and Moderna are effective at preventing coronavirus infections in real-world conditions. Member station WABE in Atlanta, Sam Whitehead has more in a new report from the agency tracking essential workers.
CDC researchers looked at nearly 4,000 people who received 2-dose COVID-19 vaccines from Pfizer and Moderna. Dr. Rochelle Walensky leads the agency.
The study found that the risk of infection was reduced by 90% after individuals received the 2 recommended doses of the vaccine. The study also found that people starting to get a protective effect even after the first dose.
Researchers say that's consistent with findings from the clinical trials conducted on the vaccines before they were authorized. The CDC says about 28% of Americans have received at least 1 vaccine dose. For NPR News, I'm Sam Whitehead in Atlanta.
The final day of what is being viewed as an historic union vote. 6,000 Amazon workers in Bessemer, Alabama are deciding today whether they want to form a union. It would be the biggest union push in the online company's history. It would also mark major inroads for organized labor into the country's second largest employer. If the organization drive succeeds, it could have a chain reaction at Amazon operations worldwide, with workers demanding better conditions. A mixed close on Wall Street today. The Dow was up 98 points. The Nasdaq closed down 79 points. This is NPR. A group of Georgia civil rights and advocacy groups are filing suit against the state's new Republican-backed election law. The groups, including the NAACP, contending the new restrictions on mail voting violate the U.S. Constitution and the Voting Rights Act. The suit seeks to block state officials from enforcing it. Nearly a week after getting jammed in Egypt's Suez Canal, the massive Ever Given has been freed, allowing for the resumption of maritime traffic. Netta Holmesy reports.
The Ever Given is free, says the Suez Canal Authority. Afloat again, the ship will now be inspected for seaworthiness before it can complete its journey, according to Evergreen Line, the company that leases the ship. For nearly a week, global supply chains have been disrupted by the jam. A backlog of over 350 vessels are waiting to pass through the canal now that it's been cleared, said Osama Rabir, the chairman of the Suez Canal Authority. They include oil tankers and gas vessels. The Suez Authority said it would expedite vessels through the canal, which could take up to 3 days. As the shortest route between Europe and Asia, the Suez Canal is a vital shipping artery. For NPR News, I'm Nada Homsi in Beirut.
Funeral services were held today for the Colorado police officer gunned down last week in a supermarket by a gunman who also shot and killed 9 others. The body of 51-year-old Boulder police officer Eric Talley in a casket flanked by 6 candles during a traditional Latin Mass at the Cathedral Basilica of the Immaculate Conception in Denver. That led an initial team of officers into the store where a 21-year-old alleged gunman had shot several people. He is charged with firing and killing several people. This is NPR News.
Support for NPR comes from Sattva, the comfort company. Sattva luxury mattresses are sold online and priced at about 50% less than mattress stores. Visit sattva.com/NPR today and save an additional $225.
Welcome back to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 5 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and we're having a great time with finding Jay Starr. Jay, okay.
Bachochin.
Bachochin. I only said it the one time, so I'm lucky to remember. Oh, like I said, I know what how to spell it. Bachochin.
Hey, I will always help. Yep, exactly. I will always help those that need helping saying my last name. That's totally fine.
I have to help people say my last name.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think that Pridemore would be that hard.
Why? What do they say?
Oh, they'll call and ask for Mr. or Mrs. Pridemore.
Oh, jeez, because it's too easy.
It's too easy. Yeah, it can't be that easy.
Right.
Apparently, they never watched football and saw a guy playing on there named Tom Pridemore. You know, they just don't know. So it's just kind of funny. So I guess if they're calling from West Virginia, they'd get it right because there's a lot of Pridemores there. But we're going to start out with some of these questions so that people know I didn't forget them. Kim asks, what is your take on structures in the woods?
You know, that is a great question. I have seen different structures that people have taken across the country. And some of them are just so fascinating of big trees just uprooted, put in upside down, just something that a normal person is just not going to do. I don't care if it's a Boy Scout or what. And so I would say that those type of structures would definitely need some sort of force and some sort of, the way I would look at it would have to be something really strong to be able to do what it needs to do. There's other structures out there. Some have been misidentified that, Boy Scouts get put together or survivalists can put together. And I have found a structure that wasn't, as impressive as some of the West Coast, the big trees just, put up. But the way this thing was made was almost like interweaving. And again, I always say, if a person was going to put this together, some of this just did not make sense. And in this case, hold on a second. I just got interrupted here too. Let's see. I apologize to all the listeners out there.
Well, things happen.
They do. It's live. This is live radio.
That's right. It'll be live this time, but the next time somebody listens to it, it'll be taped. So, sorry.
No, which is okay. Sorry about that. Yeah, because I like I said, I got a full house here too, and this was something that just couldn't wait. I think it had something to do with taxes. I'm not sure, but anyway.
Yeah, we got that coming up too.
So, with that being said, I have seen a lot of different structures, and the one that I found just kind of doesn't seem like even a survivalist, even somebody that would put a deer blind together. The way it was just these little sticks put together, I would definitely say it was more, again, borderline paranormal, supernatural. So I definitely would think that, yes, on one hand, Bigfoot could do these amazing feats of big trees, but these littler structures, maybe. And honestly, I kind of found the one I found probably could fit a baby Bigfoot in, but it was still kind of weird the way it was made. And I almost think it was like a Bigfoot art or maybe a Bigfoot crib. That I was joking about that because you couldn't really put an 8 foot, 9 foot, tall Bigfoot into this thing, but could you put a smaller one in there? It had weird hanging, I would say like sticks, but they were the way they were almost made like a bow, and they weren't really holding on to anything sound in there, meaning a survivalist would take it and try to reinforce, some of these edges. In this case, we're just talking about just hanging plants.
Maybe like a baby mobile?
Yes, honestly, that came to mind. But again, you're already talking Bigfoot. You're already a laughing stock. You're the butt end of a joke. Now you're saying you found a structure that, well, Bigfoot put together, and a lot of people say, well, maybe it's Wiccan. Maybe it's, the environmentalists that go out there that will do some Blair Witch-ish, if you will.
Try to scare people off.
Either scare people off or build something for whatever weird reason, which that stuff always freaks me out too. But it's a long-winded answer, and I'm sorry, but yes, I definitely do believe that, Bigfoot do make structures. I do.
And we have another question. This one's from April, and she asks if there are any, darn it, my thing moved around. Are there any Bigfoot stories at Yellowstone associated with the Yellowstone area?
I have seen some really intriguing webcam footage of what looked like a family of Bigfoot out there. There's been actually a couple cases. Some have been with buffalo. Mm-hmm. Where you see some buffalo right up close, and way out in the distance, you see these things walking. Now you could say, well, they're just people, but again, there's this analyst who's actually on YouTube named Thinker Thunker, and really intriguing because he really does break down, distance, size, and again, that's compelling.
Not like Matt, like Bobo was. Did he look like this? And
yeah, right.
Was he this tall? Do I look right here next to the?
Well,
or Matt Moneymaker does the same thing, but yeah.
Well, no, exactly. And again, I know I've met Matt Moneymaker and actually spoke with Bobo. He actually watched some of my film at Starve Rock. Good guys and everything, but you got to remember they're on a show. Mm-hmm. Without the personalities, the show doesn't exist because people really follow the show for the people hunting, Bigfoot, or looking for Bigfoot.
Yeah, and I mean, we used to watch it until the porcupine comment.
Oh yeah.
Once the porcupine comment, it was like, okay, well, this is no.
I'll tell you one of mine where it jumped the shark is when Bobo dressed up in drag, to be like a woman out there to see if that would attract a Squatch. Great techniques. Don't get me wrong. Whenever I talk, I always feel sometimes like I'm stepping on other researchers' toes, which I don't. I give every researcher out there that has been doing this. I don't care if they've been doing it for, like I said, 40, 30, 20 years, whatever, or even the ones that just started 6 months ago. You know what? They're boots to ground. They're trying, and you have to try different techniques in order to,
But they have Renee.
Yeah,
on the show. And I know that Renee doesn't like dresses and stuff, but still,
Yeah, exactly.
But again, it was the credibility with the porcupine comment.
Right.
If they had said it in the right context, it would have been fine. But how they said it, and you guys will have to research the comment. I'm not going to repeat it, but it just made me laugh. And ever since then, I mean, and we loved the show. We loved watching it. I don't care for killing Bigfoot. I think that's too violent, but I did like Finding Bigfoot. I just thought that it was an interesting show, and the way it went away so fast. And of course, you got to watch the soap opera version, Mountain Monsters. Got to watch that.
Well, they also have Expedition Bigfoot out there on a second season.
Yeah, which is actually interesting.
It is, and I gotta say, I really don't watch any of the shows. I don't. Mm-hmm. I used to, like I said, back in the day, I watched Ghost Hunters. Then I watched Ghost Adventurers, and then Zach got possessed, and I stopped watching that. Then, like I said, I started watching Finding Bigfoot, and actually, I found more of the town hall meetings my best part. I wish they'd come out with a Finding Bigfoot town hall meetings only, and just kind of get to the root of, people's sightings, because really that's where we learn a lot, is from behavior. Is a whole cast and crew out in the woods really going to attract a Bigfoot, or is a Bigfoot going to be smart enough to just remain hidden, especially in the dark? And I'd go with the latter on that. But
well, he could probably smell the electrical equipment.
Anything. I keep thinking that, again, I never say Bigfoot's paranormal. I say supernatural. We use everyday technology, right? Our phones, our computers, cars, TV. That's what we do. What do they do in the woods? They use every bit of their resource, which is 100% natural. That's something that we haven't tapped into as people relying on the technology. And that's my opinion, is that they can use, the roots of the trees and the plants out there as, as a sensor of knowing somebody's walking into the woods. They can feel that, maybe that's why their feet are made differently. Again, these are just theories from this guy named Jay.
Right. Well, we all have our theories, because back in the 70s, okay, this is long before a lot of people had any theories other than they'd seen this little short film about Bigfoot. And I swear I was 7, 8 years old, and I told my parents that Bigfoot was an alien. And I've stuck by that all these years. And I just figured I was way ahead of everybody else back in 1972. And I had to have been.
You can't go wrong, yeah.
And so that was one of the things that I've been saying. That I said, the reason that you can't find him is because, beam me up, Scotty. He's gone. As he gets hurt, he gets fixed somewhere else. That's why you're not finding bones and all this other stuff. Yeah. And like I said, I don't know. Is Bigfoot interdimensional? Don't know. But again, the theory I had when I was 7 is just as good now as it was when I was 7.
Well, 100%. 100%.
And and I grew up in New Jersey at that time, and there was sightings of Bigfoot north of where I lived. Not in New York City, but in New York State, because I'd lived just south of New York City. And then when we moved to Maryland and Virginia and everywhere we lived, there was always Bigfoot stories.
Right.
There was always some story about something wherever. But my husband has another question. He goes, do you guys set out trail cams to try to catch pictures of Bigfoot?
Absolutely. I've tried several times in the past 5 years. I picked up a real good trail cam, but, everything has come back either, just the wind blowing plants that sets the video off, birds flying by, or absolutely nothing, which still surprises me, because at least you'd have some deer or raccoon or something. My last attempt was hanging an apple about 14 feet in the air with fishing line, far enough away from the trunk of the tree, because I found a kind of a dead branch way up there. It was real nice, perfect. And I was able to get it far enough away that I would say a squirrel couldn't even jump from there to there. Now, could it? Maybe, I don't know. But still, in my eyes, I'm like, there'd be a once in a lifetime chance if it could. And it definitely couldn't scale down the fishing line because it was almost invisible. And, could they have chewed it? Yes, all these things. What I was looking for is to make sure that, would-be deer, couldn't get up and get it, or, really honestly, a person, because I had it like over 10 feet in the air. There would be no way to get it without cutting down the wire. I put a trail cam out there, and I actually left it out there for about 16 days because I figured I'd give it enough time not to disturb it. And I come back, and there's 6 total videos on it. 3 of me setting it up, 3 of me taking the video down. Apple's still intact. So, but one of my things is, and I joke about it, but you try to get in and out of these situations so you're not so inconspicuous, so that when all the big feet are looking at you doing it, you're trying to be really quick and subtle. But no, it still took about 40 minutes to twine it, make sure you get the right spot and everything. By the time it's done, they're eating popcorn, looking at you, going, "What? You think we're going to actually grab that apple in front of that camera? Come on!" But
do you think that they're sitting back there pointing and laughing?
Yeah, who who knows? That's my theory is, I mean, the apple wasn't even touched, I mean, at all. Not by any small animal, definitely not by a would-be Bigfoot. But again, you have to try all different techniques. And people have tried with trail cams forever. I mean, how many trail cam pictures do you have of Bigfoot? You don't. You might have the fur on the side saying that's a Bigfoot, or, you know, a shadow to the left, that might be a Bigfoot. You really don't know, but you still don't have the holy grail shot of it.
What do you think that is?
Well, again, when I say that Bigfoot uses all the natural surroundings in the woods, it's 100% natural. Now you're putting something out there that's foreign, which I think is like a beacon. In my opinion, I think it's a beacon of whether it's the internal components are making the slightest sound. I think they're just hyper aware of what's natural and what's not, going from the animals to people walking through. Okay, those are just people. They stay on the path over there and they walk. Okay, we know who they are. We know the birds are here. Wait a minute. Now we're not where the people walk, the people street over there, the human street. Now we have this weird kind of pinging sound that's coming from right there that we've never heard before. So we're going to be very cautious about going around it. You know, maybe they go around it from the back, and, you know, maybe they're looking at it from the back and studying it from the back. Maybe they learn from it. Maybe they teach their young, you know, what those things are and what to stay away from when you hear a pinging sound or you see, you know, an infrared light. Usually the trail cams won't pop a flash of infrared until it's triggered. So, you know, that's one of the things where you could say, well, they really don't see the light. So there's got to be some sort of mechanism, I believe, in there that's giving off something. To them.
And at that, we're going to take our next break. You're listening to WBHM-DB.com, and we'll be back with Jay in just a few minutes.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Several U.S. presidents are on record talking about the UFO mystery.
Yeah, Presidents Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan both had UFO sightings of their own, but the current presidential campaign might be the first in which UFO disclosure has been championed by a major party candidate.
DIA, CIA, it moves around, is operating a program to train psychic spies to spy and use their powers against Russia. John Ronson writes about this in The Men Who Stare at Goats.
The first known sighting of a ghost took place right after Abraham Lincoln was assassinated in the late 1860s during the administration of Ulysses Grant.
Project Paperclip, Clinton releases it all in 1998.
Possibly the unequal cooling of its surface.
I say, do you still think it's a meteor, Professor?
I don't know what to think. The metal casing is definitely extraterrestrial.
It's a place where UFO hunters and scientists gather to examine paranormal activity in the region.
Some of the documents, this is bringing Nazi scientists into the United States to work here. So we fought against the Nazis, and it's not, this again is not a revelation. As early as 1947, 1946, we knew some of this, right?
On the paranormal, will we see U.S. President Barack Obama's foreign policy go intergalactic in a quest for gold stolen by aliens? We'll tell you at least how the White House responded to claims the chief executive has been teleporting to Mars. But let's get to today's Capitol account.
UFOs, hauntings, psychic abilities, conspiracy, ESP, cryptozoology. There are many things that remain unexplained in the inexplicable world around us. And we're talking about them here, looking for answers. On WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama. The truth is out there.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and my guest tonight is Jay
Bachochin.
Bachochin.
I'm just gonna fill in for you every time.
Just
it's
fill it
okay.
in.
Yeah.
And we are having a wonderful discussion about all the questions in the chat. So here's another question for you from the chat. Robert, I'm going to get back to yours about the Beast of Bray Road encounter. I want to get these other questions out first. Gary Whitmer asks, what do you feel is the best equipment for outside?
For researching?
Yes.
The best thing to bring, and this is, you can load up with the $1 million pieces of equipment, or you can go in simple. I'd bring an audio recorder, just conceal it, meaning I always think that if they see it, maybe they won't come around or whatnot. But I always say just bring an audio device that would capture your surroundings or your adventure or your hike and your camera, really. And I that's how people actually catch blob squatches, is because it happens so quick and you're not quick to react to your camera, more so than just, whoa, what is that? You're caught in the moment. A lot of people, such as me, I'll wear a body cam, on the front. I'll put a body cam on my backpack. So I actually have two. But honestly, those are the main things I would use, is if you were just going to go out and, try to have some sort of encounter or contact. Because I honestly think that, if Bigfoot was that aggressive, and I'm not telling everybody it's not, because I guarantee there's good people, there's bad people. But at the same time, I really think they're more curious. I really think that they don't want to put anybody out, in harm's way, without being, all of a sudden the local media is there and the sheriffs and the search and the hunt, that ruins everything for them. So I always think that they're more prone to stay away, but stay enough in distance to maybe, some juvenile gets sloppy and shows itself or something like that. But I would not go out immediately and spend thousands of dollars on the equipment. I would stick with your audio recorder that documents everything, your sounds, your surrounding sounds, anything that can happen. You'll forget that you even have it on, but it's good to document that. And then, of course, having your camera or a body cam rolling on your front, and that's pretty much it for starters. Then when you
just
get more,
go with your cell phone and you got it all.
Exactly. And at the same time, all of a sudden I'm doing night vision binoculars. I get the flare thermal. I've got all this. All of a sudden I realize that if you put one more thing around my neck, I'm going to fall over forward. That's almost how I feel. But, at the same time, now all of a sudden you're putting a barrier with all this equipment, and it's a barrier between you and nature. Mm-hmm. And really, if you are just there to discover for yourself, not to go out and prove to get that $1 million shot or whatnot, but just to, go out and discover for yourself. I think that would be the best way to start off with just those couple pieces of equipment, and that's it. And then just go hike and have a good time.
So basically, your ghost hunting equipment can double as looking for UFOs and looking for Bigfoot.
Exactly.
So don't spend any extra money. Sherry asks, has Jay searched for Bigfoot in any other states? And where was his favorite location and what happened there?
Oh, that's a great question. I honestly stick with the Kettle Moraine. And the reason why I try to stick in one place is because it's, I'm familiar. I don't want to say like Jane Goodall or Jay Goodall. Somebody's referred to me as that, because it's not that I'm going out trying to be with the chimps. But you know what? I am going to the same areas. I do the same signal when I go out there. I will still talk to the raccoons and possum and squirrel, whoever's listening to me. But I'll always do the same thing to build a trust. Now, I have I have researched out in Pennsylvania with Eric Altman and his group on the PA Bigfoot camping adventure that they would do every couple of years out there. And just being in a different state, especially researching on the Chestnut Ridge, I got to tell you, just being out there, opposed to being here, because I'm so used to these trails and everything, but I'm developing up a trust there. Going out there on the Chestnut Ridge, that would probably be one of my favorite places to research. That I'd love to get back out there, as much as possible. But some good experiences, just being able to hear, feeling like something's walking behind you, was in the Chestnut Ridge in Pennsylvania. So I'd probably have to say that's got to be my favorite out of state. I have gone up in Wisconsin, in some other areas, but not on a constant basis. This is a long-winded answer, but like ghost investigations, you get a call, you go, you investigate for 6 or 8 hours, you review your evidence, and then you move on. How many times do you go back to that location, that house? Do you go back the next day or the next week? Do you go after that? Do you keep going in the same location to try to prove? Exactly. So therefore, if you don't catch something the first night, you can either say, we didn't catch anything, let's move on, or do we try that house again next weekend? And if you do catch something, do it another weekend. It's the same. I'm just saying it's the same thing with the woods where I research. Is I have to keep trying to measure all my data with every time I go out there, because if I only went out there once or twice, and then I went out there again 2 years later and heard something, I could easily say, wow, that sounded maybe like a Bigfoot, or a fox, maybe, I don't know. But now being out there as much as I have been, I'm able to pick up all my surroundings and try to say, I have heard that before, like 2 months ago, I heard this. Or I could hear something brand new again and say, well, that could still be another animal call. I have to research that, because just because I've never heard it in 8 years doesn't mean it hasn't happened when I haven't been out here. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So again, long-winded answer with that one, but yeah. So I was going to say Chestnut Ridge I thought was beautiful.
And the rest of Sherry's question is, have you ever truly been afraid?
Oh, yeah. Well, I sound like, this guy Jay who goes out in the woods and he's this manly man, you're not supposed to be afraid. I got rattled a couple of years ago. I was actually researching with one of my friends, Chris. It just got done raining in June. Well, as we were getting out there, it just got done raining. We enter the woods. It was fairly dark. It was getting darker as we entered. And all you hear is the rainfall off the leaves, just all the way around you, just tick, 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 the dripping of the rain, the rainfalls. We always hike in the dark. I know the trails very well. We do carry lights and red lights if we need them. But I could barely see Chris, and he goes, "Hey, can I knock on a tree?" Well, yeah, he brought his stick out to do it. So I'm like, absolutely. Even though I don't do that, and I don't do calls, he gave 2 solid knocks, and it's still so dark. I can't see Chris, but I closed my eyes. I don't know why it was so dark, but I closed my eyes to focus to listen for a call back or a knock back or something. And all I'm hearing is the rhythmic tick, 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 all around. And all of a sudden, right behind me, I hear, this day I'll swear on it, it was a bipedal walking right behind me, from my right to my left, right behind me. 1, 2, 3, just stopped. It just stopped. And I'll tell you what, if you're talking about fear, I was petrified. I couldn't say anything to Chris. I couldn't motion. I couldn't speak. It was almost that feeling of, have you ever been in your basement? You turn your light off in your basement. You're going up the stairs, and you're thinking maybe something's coming up the stairs behind you. That kind of that feeling. I don't know if anybody's experienced that, but I have, and it was like that. But I couldn't move, and I'm like, I'm going to die. I remember thinking, whatever just walked behind me is still there. And and the way I heard it, the way it moved in, my best guess is 5 feet, maybe 10 feet right behind me. And I could not move. I thought I was a goner. And what seemed like forever, I was able to break from that and kind of walk right towards Chris. Now, again, the rhythmic ticking everywhere and it being dark, Chris was far enough away where he didn't hear it. And I walk up to Chris right away and I turn around with my thermal and because I already had it ready and I turned it on instead of turning on flashlights, right? Because I didn't want to make whatever was behind me upset by blinding it. I wanted to be nice, even though it scared me. Then I turned around and turned my thermal on, nothing there. So I never heard it leave, but it was there. And I do have audio that, it's one of those that I don't want to try to tell people what to listen for because it's like an EVP. If you hear wow, well, that said Bob. It's subliminal that you'll put it in there. So there was nothing there. I told Chris about it. Nope, he didn't hear it. Well, okay, I didn't hear any knocks. Let's just keep going as if nothing happened.
Right.
So we're still hiking, but I'm getting this really weird gut feeling. And nothing else happened that night. So sorry that I didn't add on anything bigger and spectacular. But by the time I got home, I was done. I wasn't researching Bigfoot anymore because I had no idea what it was. I'm like, it was whatever it was right behind me and it could have killed me. And I'm thinking of my kids. I'm thinking of my wife. And I'm like, this is stupid. For what? Why am I going out there? And I seriously needed to talk it out to some of my colleagues and peers about it because I was messed up. I really was. And so I really didn't get back out for another month, maybe a month and a half. And I finally got that, that courage back to get back out. And then I've been doing it again since. But that was my most terrifying moment, is having something behind me. And I have no idea what it was, but it sounded like bipedal footsteps starting from my right to my left and just stopped right behind me. It was right behind me. So that was my terrifying story.
And let's see, here's another question. And this one says, Jay, it's your pal Rob. Do you have any plans to write a book on anything?
How's it going, Rob, brother? Give a shout out to Rob. He messages me quite a bit on a lot of good things, and I always appreciate that. And always wish I had more time to message a lot, but that was one of the things before doing the documentary Finding Jay, was somebody said you should write a book about this, and I'm like, I'm a filmer, not a writer. Maybe at some point I will, but I don't have anything in the foreseeable future. I do have a sequel going to be coming up to Finding Jay. It just has to, right? The hunt has to continue. And I do have a lot more weirdness to show people that I have not posted on Facebook or YouTube or anywhere. I've been kind of keeping it under wraps, and it's not to be selfish to put it into a documentary, but it's got to be done the right way. So, Rob, sorry, I don't have a book coming out yet, but if you want, I'll write a Post-it note for you and send it to you if you want.
I think he'll take you up on that.
Yeah.
He likes everything.
Yeah.
So, and we got a question here from Sherry, another one. I've also heard Bigfoot has a very pungent smell. Has Jay ever been in the woods and smelled something odd? I would say, have you ever smelled anything that smelled that horrible?
Yes. On 3 different times with 3 different people. If you could always check out my documentary. There's that goes into so much more detail. It's free on Amazon Prime. It's my first venture into the filming and the documentary era, but yes, and it is every bit as bad as what people have ever said it smelled like. When you have no wind out there, and I always understand there's a wind current, not wind, but current. But there was no wind at all. And when this thing hits you, it hits you like a ton of bricks. and then disappears, you got to think, well, I've actually, if you've ever had a mouse caught in your wall or trap or whatever, and it decays and it's just one mouse, they stink so bad, but it stinks in that location. So now you're in the woods and you have predator and you have prey and you're going to have dead carcasses and they're going to smell and be pungent of death. But that would be if you're walking around that area. Now, if you're not around that area, okay, it hits you like a ton of bricks. Now you're walking another 500 yards completely away from there. Again, no wind. And all of a sudden it creeps up on you and it's not as bad. It gets stronger and stronger until you're almost ready to gag. And then all of a sudden, just like that, it's gone. I mean, in an instant, no wind. There's no explanation that we've been able to find out unless somebody said, well, maybe a coyote's dragging, its kill around with them. Well, again, if there's no wind and it's at night, you would hear something. You'd hear
it dragging across the ground.
It would be dragging. It's not going to drag it on the trail. It's probably going to drag it through the woods, which is going to be worse. But even so, all right, somebody said, well, maybe there are 2 kills and you just happen to walk from that one into this one. Again, is it possible? It's not plausible, though. And in this case, if you're standing there where the roadkill is supposed to be, or the kill is supposed to be there, why does it disappear and not come back? And then all of a sudden it comes back full force and then goes away. And then you go walk again, totally away from that area, go back to that same area where you were just at, just saying, all right, I just want to test to make sure there's nothing dead around here and there's nothing that smells, and you start to walk the other direction. All of a sudden it follows you again. It is something. It's one of those things I wish my documentary had smell-o-vision in, and then I could kind of put it out during that scene, because you see us all like smelling as if somebody farted or something. But
you could always, on your videos when you sell them, have a sticker made that says scratch now.
Oh yeah.
But again, I know the smell because my husband, he has a Prius for work, and Priuses are known for being giant mouse traps.
Really?
And a mouse got in his car and died.
Oh.
And we'd set a trap in there. I mean, it was bold. It tried to eat he had set something down on the seat, and this mouse came out while he was driving during the day to try to take his food.
Whoa. Oh, boy.
And it smelled so bad that he had to drive when it was really cold outside with his head out the window like a dog to get it to the dealership to get it cleaned, because it was, a company car, but you don't want to be held responsible for that either.
No.
Plus it was dangerous.
Well, exactly. Especially with that. And yeah, think about that. At least he was able to put his head out the window as he was driving. When you're engulfed in this stuff in the woods, there's no escape from it. You can't go anywhere. It's just going to follow you.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it was on his clothes and everything. Every time he came in the house, it's like, take your clothes off, and not in a good way. It's just, it smells so bad. And we are at our last break. You're listening to WBHM-DB.com out of Birmingham, Alabama. We'll be back with Jay in just a few minutes. But you guys, please come back and we'll get the rest of these questions asked.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
This is Jason Bland, host of Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup, where we stream live as a webcast every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern, with guests who will blow your mind. Live ghost box sessions where you can call into the show to see if the spirits will talk to you, and the World Wide Web of Weird with the latest in paranormal news and evidence. We're bringing the weird every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow and subscribe.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 45 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and we're going to finish up this interview with Jay, and we're going to enjoy the rest of these questions. So let's see, where are we at? I think we're going to go back to the Bray Road incident. So Robert said for you to go into that information. The Beast of Bray Road.
Okay, and as you know, Linda Gottfried has actually been researching, or actually she wrote about the Beast of Bray Road back in the early 90s when there were a bunch of sightings about an upright canine. Again, a lot of times people say, is Bigfoot and Dogman cousins? Or because now you're talking about an upright dog that walks like a man that's 7 feet tall. Not a werewolf, werewolves change from human to wolf, but in this case, this just seems to be some sort of, it got coined the name Beast by Linda Gottfried, and it has stuck. So I am actually, Bray Road is about 14-minute drive from my driveway, from my house. So, and that's actually also on my way to the kettle. And so I like to patrol Bray Road a lot too, because it's all privately owned farm fields from third, fourth generation farmers that have been there forever. So getting off Bray Road and trying to investigate is going to raise everybody up. So I always recommend, it's a public road, just stick on the roads, don't get off. And in this one case, coming back from the kettle, this is probably maybe about 1:15 in the morning, and actually it was the surrounding, it wasn't right on Bray, but it was a surrounding road of Bowers. And I was driving, and Sanjay was with me from that hike, but he was looking at his camera. It's the pictures that he took from that day, and I'm kind of keeping my eyes out. I'm only doing about 18 miles an hour because I didn't want to go too slow, but I don't want to go too fast because I was patrolling. I wanted to look. And all of a sudden, right on the left-hand side, coming around Bowers, I see, and I have no shred of proof except my word. For a second there, I see this wolf standing up, looking up, almost as if he was looking up in the moon with its arms up, just for that second. And I pass it. And again, I'm only doing 18 miles an hour, and I hit the brakes because I'm kind of confident now that I'm in the car and I'm with somebody. I just threw it right in reverse right away, reversed up, go down just that little bit, and then just kind of swerve and aim my car, the headlights right where I saw it. There's nothing there. And when I mean there's nothing there, here's the part where people could say it was late, it was a misidentified something. There was nothing there. And I mean, it was open farm field. There were no telephone poles, there were no trees, there was everything was harvested. There was nothing there. So I don't know what I saw, but I could say it looked like an upright wolf, and it's like, all right, well, Jay, you're going to see it. If you believe it, you're going to see it. I'm one of those people that don't, I'm always out there hunting the truth. So that was kind of a freaky experience because I don't know where the hell it went. I mean, it moved so fast, you know what I mean? So when I backed up and put the lights on it, I'm like, where would it have gone? And at that point, Sanjay kind of freaked out, like, "Wait, what's going on?" I'm like, "You didn't see that? Come on!" I didn't have it. And actually, after that is when I got my dash cam, and it's been in my car ever since, running 24/7. I don't care; it's always running now, because I could have had something, at least, even if it was misidentification, I would have been able to go back to my footage to say, "Oh, okay, it was a pine tree." It was right there, and okay, maybe it was me, but there was nothing there. So it's a pretty incredible story.
I hadn't seen anything on the Beast of Bray Road, except for I did see when we were at the festival, Linda had all of her books on the table. And so I saw that, and I talked to her a little about it at that time. Because, like I said, it's not that I'm skeptical. I just haven't had an experience to make me want to go out in the woods and maybe get killed by something bigger than Shaquille O'Neal. And so, and I doubt very much that after watching him on Bear Grylls' show earlier today, I don't think he's back in the woods yet, to be honest. I think it was very traumatic for him being in the woods. So I don't think that he's roaming around out there. But it's interesting. So I'm going to have to watch some of this stuff and read up on some of it, because you've at least got me interested to the point where I want to know more. Like I said, the TV shows don't do it justice. And so I'm going to ask you this other question from Sherry, because we've only got about 10 minutes left.
Okay.
Sherry asks, okay, well, that makes me think that I might want to ask another question, which is good. So apparently we're getting people to think here.
Okay.
There are mysterious killings in the woods that people think that it might have been Bigfoot that did this. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. If you ever really want to dive deeper down the rabbit hole, there's actually two other good shows that are on Prime. One's called The Bray Road Beast by Small Town Monsters Productions. And that's a fascinating documentary, because they really dive into all the different possibilities of Dogman. But there's also one called 411 The Hunted by David Pilates. And you watch those two, and you're going to be going down a rabbit hole that really just never ends, because, I mean, again, there's no answer to these, but it's going to give you so much more information of some of the dangers of, like you were saying, if somebody, died in the woods. I mean, if they found their body, could they do an autopsy? And again, if the autopsy came up that, it's by some unknown origin, they could mark it down as killed by a bear or whatever. And when I mean they, it would be whoever the powers that be that don't want the truth to come out about these, because I would figure, the government having, so much better equipment and surveillance, that they would know, but again, they're not going to reveal, just like UFOs. Although the UFOs now are starting to seem to be a flap everywhere, and the military is starting to acknowledge it, and so is the news and whatever. And I think one day that'll happen with Bigfoot and these other cryptids that are out there. These as well. I mean, not getting biblical or anything like that, but at the same time, it could be the end times of something opening up, and these different cryptids are coming out. We just only touched on two of them.
Right.
There are so many cryptids out there. Like the Van Meter monster. How about the visitor? How about that one?
Yeah.
Crazy.
The thing is with the Van Meter visitor, has it ever been seen anywhere else? And if you read different articles, you may find that there was something was seen someplace else in Iowa, but they didn't describe it the same way. Kind of, I mean, and was it Mothman?
Right.
We don't know. We're going based on descriptions done in the early 1900s to descriptions made in the 1960s.
Right. Exactly.
So do we know? We don't know. And, that's the thing is we don't know. Before we get much further, how can people find Jay?
You can find me at my website. That'd be Jay Bachochin. That's B as in boy, ACHOCHIN.com. You can find me there, and through there you can find all my links of you can find me on Facebook. I do have a personal page. I do have a one just dedicated to hunting the truth. I also have a Finding Jay Facebook page. And believe it or not, you can find me on TikTok. Now, before anybody laughs, because, TikTok's always just been for the younger kids generation and that make funny videos or just, 15 seconds of nonsense. I'm telling you what, I have found some really compelling evidential, just UFOs, Bigfoot, all these other different videos that you can look at. Now, again, if everything on the internet is true, bonjour, right? Because we know it's not, but it gives you another avenue too. So, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Facebook, I'm on MeWe, and
are you on Rumble yet?
Not on Rumble yet.
You need to get on there and get your videos on there because eventually you get enough views, you get cash.
Yeah, they said that about TikTok too, but I got shadow banned, so.
Well,
Yeah.
you know how that goes. But Rumble is a lot different.
Okay.
And I really enjoy Rumble. It's one of the few places I actually do watch videos, and I love watching the ones from Diamond and Silk. But that's me. I know not everybody's into Diamond and Silk.
And that's what I'm saying is different strokes, different folks with it. But you know what? It's the platform used. But those are the main places that you can find me. And I do usually when I go out hiking, I will go like Facebook Live, and it's more to bring people closer to the elements that I'm in, even though they can't be there. You never know. There'll be that once in a lifetime capture live that again that I heard and anybody that's watching it heard at the same time or saw. You never know. So those are the places you can find me, and also on YouTube. And I just did want to throw one thing in. You do have Finding Jay that is on Amazon Prime. A lot of people don't know, and I tried to blast it a lot, but I have a Lost and Found Finding Jay special bonus material on YouTube under my same name, Jay Bachochin. And there is extended interviews, some deleted scenes, and even a gag reel that I put out last Black Friday. Primarily to kind of give a little bit more than what you just saw from my film, but it adds even more to it. So definitely go check that out on YouTube. And I also post a bunch of other things on YouTube as well. So I'm kind of all over, but.
Well, that's good. And I'd like to thank you so much for coming on and talking to this Bigfoot know nothing and teach me some things. One of the things I did want to ask you about before we got off the air was research. I know that you research on hand, in the woods. Mm-hmm. How do you research when you're not in the woods? When you're not in your car?
When I'm not in the car, not in the woods, I have picked up several good books. Books are always really good. Everybody from Ron Moorhead. I've got all of Linda's books too, and some of these, yeah, obviously. But what I'm saying is it's getting a different perspective from different people, from different researchers that also do their own research, but then put it into text. So having a good, solid book collection, is something. I mean, again, people say, well, anybody could just write a book and they could write about nothing. It's like Seinfeld, right? It's a book about nothing. But in this case, when you're reading different perspective, one of my favorite Bigfoot books out there is Ron Moorhead, The Quantum Bigfoot, because it takes you on a different approach than it's just an undiscovered primate. And this is going to go back to what you were saying, is that are they possibly aliens? I mean, it's a great book, and I highly recommend it to anybody out there. But that's how I do my other research when I'm not in my car or not out in the woods.
Do you use like Google Maps to look for stuff?
Yeah, I've had different people calling in from Wisconsin from having different either sightings or stick structures or footprints. If I can't get out there right away, I get their exact location, and then I'll Google Map it. I'll get into a satellite. I like to look at the different terrain that where it could be, pan out, kind of look like the Kettle Moraine's almost a green mile that starts from the south, goes up through the north before it gets to the Great North Woods, and Rylander and Eagle River and all that before it hits Michigan, which just explodes. It's so many possibilities. So I keep thinking if they migrated, which I don't know, but if they did, I'm thinking this is the way they're going through. Then you have the rivers. Rivers are the best traveling point, I believe, because no matter what, you're walking in the water, you're swimming in the water, you're not leaving any tracks, any evidence behind you, and you're able to move swiftly at night, undetected.
Right. And you got a path in front of you the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So it's what I do, but you can only do so much and try to be in so many locations and not try to spread yourself so thin. I mean, at one point, will I leave these areas and move on? Maybe, but at the same time, there is still something there that maybe it's not a Bigfoot standing there, but now we're talking about orbs of light that are wisping through the woods. Still, I'd like to know what this area is all about. I'd like to uncover it one day. Well, that's my goal.
Well, finding the truth, no matter what it is always an interesting journey.
Yes, it is.
So I would like to thank you so much for being on the Paranormal Pride tonight. I'd like everybody to tune in next week. I'm going to have a roundtable. So far, I have Alex Matsuo that's going to be on, and it depends on how the basketball game goes as to who my next guest my other guests are going to be with her, because apparently some of their teams are in the basketball tournament. So I will find out. So I think Wisconsin may have a team, or Milwaukee or something has a team that's supposed to be in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, as long as it's not the Packers, I'm okay.
I don't know. It's college football or basketball.
Yeah, so, I know. Yeah.
But is there anything you want to say before we go?
No, I just want to say thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be on your program tonight. I love chatting about it, and I'm honored to be on here talking with you and your guests. So thank you very much. You have yourself a great night.
Well, thank you so much for being on, and we'll be back next Monday night at 7 p.m. Central with the Paranormal Pride here on WBHM-DB.com. You guys have a great night.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.